Well, we're here at the beautiful Rustic Grill, Redwater Rustic Grill, Aspen Landing location. And now, Chef, we're by some water here, which is just so easy to start talking about
It's
Oceanwise
the
with you.
lake at Aspen,
It
right?
is. I don't know if there's a lot of ocean life in there. However, that is what we want to talk about here today with the new summer menu that you guys have rolled out. Talk a little bit about the partnership and how Oceanwise comes into play.
Well, sustainable seafood, of course, is such a relevant conversation no matter where you are in the country. I'm from Vancouver, and so on the coast, we're really connected to our ocean. But
Right.
no matter where you live in Canada, and certainly here in Alberta, you've got healthy lakes and rivers. And of course, freshwater fish come from those places. We all love to eat more fish, or we all love to eat fish, and quite
Yes.
honestly, we should be eating a little bit more fish,
Right.
a lot more vegetables. And so, sustainable seafood programs like the Vancouver Aquarium's Oceanwise program allow you to make great choices when you're shopping or going to restaurant partners like Redwater, who have really led the charge for years in regards to choosing sustainable seafood.
And are people becoming more aware of where their food is coming from? Do you find that now?
Well, certainly, I mean, where their food is coming from, yes, more so now than ever. Where their seafood is coming from, not so much. I
Really?
mean, I rode my bike across Canada in 2014 to launch a foundation called Chefs for Oceans. And it was really about engaging Canadians, excuse me, engaging Canadians and my peers around the importance of healthy lakes, oceans, and rivers. And the number one asked question was, what is sustainable seafood?
Right.
Right?
So, how do you answer that?
It's pretty simple. For me, sustainable seafood is two things. It's a wild, well-managed fishery. So let's say the halibut season starts in October and starts in March and goes until October.
Okay.
So you're allowed to catch fish between that time and that time, and you're allowed to catch this many of that type of fish with a certain type of gear. So
Right.
it's
Okay.
just basically taking care of that species. And then the other conversation about sustainable seafood is the farming of fish.
Right. Okay.
Farmed fish is not always a four-letter word,
Right.
right? So it's about understanding that you could farm fish in a lake like this, a man-made lake somewhere in Canada, where you're growing a certain species and maybe serving it locally to Calgary or Edmonton or Alberta or wherever you may live. There's lots of land-based farmed fish that is grown across the country. In fact, we farm more fish now in the world than we actually catch wild fish.
Really?
So you think about the importance of farming fish for an ever-growing global population. It's healthy lakes, oceans, and rivers, and sustainable seafood. And we should be eating more fish anyway.
Right. And you're out there, you're talking about this often. How responsive are those partners, whether it's the restaurants or the grocers, or how responsive are they to this idea?
Well, it's a great question because, really it's consumer driven. So when you go to a restaurant and you see the Oceanwise logo on the bottom of a menu at restaurants like Redwater or Vintage Chop House, even if you're a steakhouse, you're still serving seafood.
Right.
And so guests ask for, what I always tell guests is just ask the question, is this seafood sustainable? So you may have your first experience with sustainable seafood at a restaurant, but then you're going to go to a grocery store. And then you're going to ask that fishmonger at the fish counter at Co-op or, wherever you may go, hey, tell me what's in your case that is sustainable. And grocery stores are in the business of selling food.
Right.
So they will sell food that sells. Right?
Right.
And so the more we ask for it, the more sustainable seafood you'll see, the better options, the more flavorful options, the tastier fish that will come available because you know what? There's thousands of species in the ocean.
Right.
And unfortunately in North America, we really only eat 4 species. And so we need to start broadening our horizons.
I like that idea. Are there guidelines set yet for restaurants and grocers on how much of their seafood is sustainable?
No.
No.
And it's really up to that restaurant group or those restaurateurs or that chef or that GM or owner or whoever. It's consumer driven because I think we as, I sort of liken the sustainable seafood movement to the organics movement of 20 years ago. Remember when it used to be the dark, limp corner of the grocery store and now it dominates the grocery store? Well, I hope that sustainable seafood in 20 years will be like that. It's the only conversation that we are having around the fish that we're eating. And, it doesn't matter if you live in Alberta, in Calgary, if you live in Edmonton, if you live in Manitoba or Saskatchewan, we all want to enjoy great fresh ingredients and fresh seafood. If it happens to come from somewhere else in the world, I mean, I love lemons, coffee, tea, chocolate, right? I love to eat things from all over the place, including seafood. So the more we ask for it in grocery stores and at restaurants like Redwater, the more that those restaurants will feel comfortable in offering it.
That's great. Now, sometimes we live here in the prairies and we think we shouldn't have access to great tasting seafood. We have to wait till we go far out east or out to the coast. But
Sure.
that's not how it is necessarily anymore.
But you know,
is it?
I lived here for 5 years. Lots of my friends that live here, they love to hunt. They
Yeah.
love to fish,
Right.
right? They're connected to healthy rivers and lakes, right? They understand that trout or char or steelhead comes from these rivers.
Right.
Actually, some of the most passionate fishermen I know are often fly fishermen that are going into the river systems and going camping or whatever. You know, seafood, yes, we have 5 oceans and it covers 2/3 of the world.
Right.
But there's also freshwater fish that are delicious and readily available right there. And, you know, why not have those on your plate more than salmon from
Right.
somewhere else, you know, more than, because it's going to be fresher, and fresh is always going to taste better.
Great tips. Thanks so much for this,
Thank you.
Chef. If you want to broaden your horizons out there and taste some of this food, make sure you ask for it, whether you're at your grocery store or at your neighborhood restaurant. We're back with more Go From Here at Redwater Rustic Grill right after the break.